now the ultimate power in the universe.
Last who will reveal ourselves.
I have a bad feeling about this.
You are now tuned into LightSaber Radio. If you only knew the power of God's
Let's go.
You are now tuned into LightSaber Radio. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello there.
We're here, we're back, and welcome to a very special episode of LightSaber Radio, your weekly hive of bounty and tribute for anything and everything Book of Boba Fett. If you haven't already, make sure you smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell to join our live shows on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And if you like this video, drop us a like. It means the whole galaxy. Hello, everybody. We are here for episode 2 of Book of Boba Fett. How are we feeling? What did we think?
What's going on? Book of Boba Fett.
Yes!
You can't.
I
Thank
was
you,
happy.
CJ. Thank you, CJ.
You needed some enthusiasm.
CJ, that's not
No.
saying much. You're pretty easy to please.
Wow. We obviously haven't hung out in person because I am not that easy to please. But when it comes to Book of Boba Fett, number 2, episode 2 came out a lot different than what the first one did. It had a little bit more punch to it in my eyes. It had a better feel to it. It gave me a little bit more explanation on some things. It had a nice little fever dream.
Dylan, you're being way too generous on this.
No, I am smacking Dylan's comment right up there because he is absolutely correct. It was amazing.
What's up, Dylan?
9 seems a little generous.
What's going on,
No.
Nick? How are you
give it a
doing
good
today?
8 from what
Okay,
we've seen.
so how did you feel about it, Charlie?
I, having considered your points from last week, I absolutely kind of understand where you were coming from. So I went into the second episode a little bit more open-minded, not quite as ready to just fall head over heels. Too late, 5 minutes in, I'm gone. I thought it was fantastic from start to finish. It was action-packed. It was fast-paced. We got some really, really, really interesting look into Tuscan lore and Tuscan culture. And I'm always here for learning more about the kind of smaller aspects of the Star Wars universe. Boba Fett was absolutely killing it this episode. The whole kind of Terminator 2 scene in the bar with the bar fight and the gang, and oh my goodness, it was just fantastic.
Can I just
That's
say
a
I
good
don't want
reference.
that little lizard in my
Cute.
nose ever?
Oh yeah,
Just say I love how he's like, oh, it's cute. I'll let it guide me. Clunk. Just immediately, right in his nose. Just no hesitation.
the fact that he said the phrase "tricky little bugger" absolutely sent me.
He said, I think I swallowed it. I
So
laughed so hard.
So what do you think, Garrison?
Well, first off, I think it is is the first episode and second episode even connected? It felt like I was watching a completely different show for one. With that said, I think it was a step in the right direction, but I still think it was kind of strange and not amazing. I don't think it was amazing, but it was better. It was better. I'll give it that.
Fair.
Okay, are y'all ready?
No.
Okay.
No,
So the overall episode, I thought was decently done. I do agree with Garrison that it just felt weird. It felt off. It didn't feel like it flowed together with the first episode. It just kind of left like this blank feeling in your mind. Like, okay, what's going on? Like, why? Like, okay. So, but overall, I thought the episode was a decent episode. You know, I thought that there was a lot of action. They showed Boba Fett having more of a action ability to him, like Boba Fett is. He was more of a badass. You know, he walked in that bar, he whooped everybody in the bar. He's jumping off the train. He's doing Boba Fett shit. And it kind of gave us an explanation on why he is kind of more soft now. It did give us that, you know, he's getting to know these sand people. He's like, hey, wait a minute, these people know the land. Can't just be doing shit to them, you know, every grain of sand that they know about. So it kind of gives them more of that family type feeling. So I could see where he's getting, where kind of, you know, more like that long lost uncle or dad trying to make a good impression within the hierarchy of the Tuscan Raiders. So I see where that's coming from. Now, the bad parts is, okay, first off, when they drop the dude in a rancor pit, that is the smallest rancor door in the world. I swear, Moochie or whatever the hell the damn rancor's name is never grew up. Because if you look at the picture and every angle that they showed in this film, the door is way too small for a freaking rancor. Like, this is the smallest door ever for this giant ass beast that's gonna come out and eat the dude. Now, it was funny when the dude started begging for it. Like okay.
Yeah.
Like, you could have chopped my head off, got it off over with. I don't want to get eaten by shit. So that was kind of funny. That brought a real, comedic sense right there. Then, after the dude snitches and they go to see the mayor, when they're walking through, there is a lot of Trandoshans. They show several scenes with Trandoshans in there. So I have a really good feeling that we're going to be seeing Bosk in here. There's too many Trandoshans around. They're pointing that out for a reason, because they want us to know that Bosk is somewhere around. After he goes and sees the mayor, I liked how Boba Fett just kind of bogarted his way in, like, move your ass out the way to that one dude. I thought they should have just shot him, but, hey, that's just my opinion. That dude's kind of annoying. But after they go in, they talk to the mayor. The mayor's kind of like, dude, I'm not scared of you. Boba's like, hey, you should be. Anyway, they trade whatever, and then he goes over back to the whole house or the whole bar or whatever you want to call that. Then the next very bad part comes up. And this is a very bad part. Because you have like 15 people that are walking up with the twins. 2 giant-ass huts. It's like 15 people carrying these big, giant huts.
Those
You
were
can
strong
see-
motherfuckers.
You can see them struggling, and you can
Dude,
see
The
like
one guy buckled in the
bones.
front.
That
it's
shit
also-
is impossible. There's
it's
no
a
way
show
15
of-
people could carry them 2.
It's
Like,
a show of power. It's a show of like strength and like look how
For
look
them-
how affluent.
All
and-
I've
yeah,
got
I
to
know.
for
say
them, but not
is
for the
when they
people.
panned to that guy.
That is physically impossible, and I thought that's another place, just like the door, that they should have figured that out a little bit better. One hut, maybe 15, 20 people could have carried, but 2 huts, big huts on this platform. The platform is Bowie. These
2
dudes weigh a
huts?
lot.
Big huts.
Yeah, big huts. You know
Can I
what I'm
just
saying?
point out the fact when they pan to the guy in the front, he buckles forward. I'm sorry. Once one guy buckles, the guy beside him takes that weight, and he's buckling too.
Yeah, isn't it like the
You
whole
kinda
human
screwed up.
pyramid
Yeah.
cheerleader?
Yes.
Then-
I'm sorry.
We go into, they're having their little conversation back and forth, and they bring out Black Cassandra. I can't ever say his name, however you say his name. The Wookiee bounty hunter and pit fighter. And I thought that was very cool that they brought him into into live action. This is his premiere into live action. The problem is that some of the characters that might come along with him, because if anybody has read the Dr. Afra series, he has been in cahoots with him, and he is not doing the same type of things that he was doing before. I know that at Black Croissant.
Yeah. That's the
But-
only way I can hear it in my head. I read the name and go black croissant.
But so I think that that might be a draw in that they could be bringing Dr. Alpha or Afra, however you say her name, into the fold. That could be a character that we see. Then the next thing I wanted to point out is, did y'all realize that the entire episode, the entire beginning part of it, Fennec does not wear her helmet. Now, some people might not notice this or might just blow it off, but usually when they do things like that is because they're setting up a person. They want to draw attention to a person in order for them to show you that they're doing something else with that person. So, because the first episode, she takes her helmet off, they have the whole little helmet, polish the helmet scene. This episode, she doesn't wear her helmet the whole time. So why are they drawing attention to her like that? So that's causing me to
Because
believe.
she's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
She
Yeah.
I
is.
think I'll win as hot as hell. I'm sorry.
But that's
I-
something. That's something that you know, you got to point out. You got to look for them little things because they're drawing attention to it for some reason. Could it be another standalone film or another standalone show about Fennec Shand? Something could be happening. Then it moves on to basically the boring good part. Okay, it's boring because basically all it is Boba Fett training with the Tuscan Raiders. They're teaching him, he's teaching them, you know, back and forth. Then you got the train ride. Train comes in, you know, they go conquer the train. Now, one of the things after they conquered that train, first let me get that. When they went to that bar, or when Boba went to that bar, and he fights them dudes, the chick and that dude in there, that dude stood up like he was going to do something, but that woman was very, very, very scared. She looked scared in those scenes like, oh my God, we're about to get killed. They're about to kill us. And I do not know what species of people those are. I didn't look it up. But they do have nuts like normal people because he bashes that one in the nuts with the gaffy stick and that dude drops. So I'm guessing that a lot of aliens have nuts. Then it moves on. He steals the carts or whatever, or steals the bikes, and he brings back, teaches the Tuscan Raiders. Once again, it's going back so forth to them teaching him, he's teaching them. After they conquer the train and they take over the train, I'm not sure, but them the spice runners from that train look like they could be what's their names?
They were Pike Syndicate.
Pike Syndicate. That's what they kind of look like. They kind of look like that. So after they go through there and they just let them go, which was really not Boba Fett. That's just soft. Tuscan Raiders kill people. They don't just let people walk away. So that was like a really weak moment. Like, what? Really? You're just letting these people walk away? The Tuscans wouldn't even let these people walk away, but Boba lets them walk away.
Can I just say something real fast before you continue? We have not seen Pike Syndicate faces before. We've only seen masks. So this is the first time ever, comic, cartoon, movie, we ever see an actual face on a Pike Syndicate member or a person of that species.
If that is the Pike Syndicate.
Yeah.
Now, we're speculating here because they kind of look like that, but they could be something else.
Yeah.
Pike were mentioned by name though.
No, they didn't say the Pike. They said Spice, that they were running Spice. And because he asked him, do you have any spice on board? And he's like, nah. He was like, you know, like the Pike Syndicate type spice stuff. And they're like, no. He was talking about spice.
The Raider drops it. It's like, oh, really? It's like,
Yeah,
it's like when you tell a cop, no, I don't have that. And then they look in the back seat and that's all you fucking have. Yeah.
I'm so
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Kyle. I'm
go
sure you
ahead.
guys saw the bar wasn't just a bar. It was in fact Toshi Station, and those two people in Toshi Station, those two human people, were Cammy and Fixer from the deleted scene from A New Hope. And I think that's so beautiful because that cements and makes that deleted scene part of the canon now.
Which is great.
Love that.
But that also nods to something else. I'm gonna let Kyle continue what he was saying first before I throw that nod.
And Rob just brought up a good point. The Tuscans would have never used the speeders in the first place. They hate tech. They do not like tech. They don't get blasters. They don't take blasters from the people that they kill. They keep their rifles. They don't like technology. So that's a very good point. Then it goes on to the point where after it's all done, they have their little moment, and he gives them, or he hands the main chief of the Tuscans, gives Boba the lizard. And then the lizard jumps off and runs up his nose, and that sends him on this. So I call him the LSD lizard because he makes him start tripping. But the thing that bothered me with that is if you look at the Tuscans, their faces are covered. They only got that one little spot where their mouth doesn't lead to your brain the same way. So how do they go through it? And they're masked up when they're very, very, very young.
They're human. Like they have human faces. Like they're basically humans.
Well, it just depends. Well, it depends on, because like in the Book of Kenobi, they're multiple species. And it's just they get covered when they're brought into the thing. Now, if you're a child though, you're covered from birth. So as soon as you're born, they start covering you. which, you know, I was just like, yeah, that kind of doesn't make sense. Their faces all covered. They got this lizard that makes you hallucinate so you know where to go to the only tree in this entire desert to find your gaffy stick wood. That's another thing that I was like, okay, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? There's one tree in the whole giant desert, and that's where you go get your wood at.
You are nitpicking today.
It just didn't make sense to me. That's them things that throw you off.
There's a
So
lot
like
of.
that's them things that just throw you off. It throws the whole sequence of what's going on
CJ,
in the.
correct the man, please.
So, if I may, I don't know if you were finished or not, Kyle. I don't want to rudely interrupt with this.
Oh, go ahead.
Native Americans do a lot of things because I have a lot of Native American family. Native Americans do things that are so unorthodox that make no damn sense, but only to them. The same thing with Tuscans. They know that makes sense, but other people are gonna be like, "Yo, that's a little much."
Well,
I don't
okay,
think I'm gonna
first
play
off,
that.
this is what doesn't make sense. Okay, let me explain to you what doesn't make sense. This lizard goes up his nose, causes him to start hallucinating, and he just knows where to go to this damn tree.
No,
Like the only tree in the desert,
the
and he
Tuscan
just
said the
automatically
lizard-
knows. Did not make no sense whatsoever. It would have been different if we would have seen them bring him there or do something, but they just it just flashes.
what they
It just
said-
flashes and the skip scenes, and it caused your brain to go
It's
into like
not-
a discombobulation of not understanding what's going on. It messed up with the flow of the show itself. That's
Tuscan-
bad
I don't think
editing.
The Tuscan
Black and
High
white.
Chief stated that the gecko would guide him, and then they sat there. He's like, "Yes, I'll guide the gecko," not understanding what the High Chief, was trying to tell him. The gecko is what guided him because the gecko knows where to go. Not
Yeah.
Boba.
It's a
That's why the
possibility.
gecko went
What
in.
I'm saying in somebody that's done video and editing and shit like that, the jump scene and the way it moved caused a rift with inside the show itself. It caused everything to be confusing. You don't want that. That's bad. That's where Garrison got the confusion from. He started getting confusion because they did that multiple times within this show. They just had jump scenes that didn't make no sense. They were completely out of line. They didn't make any type of sense whatsoever. So anyway, he comes back from the little tree thing, and the kid is standing there. The kid's all happy to see him. Then they finally take him out of his damn underwear. You know what I'm saying? And put some different clothes on him.
I
Okay,
was
that,
so curious when he came back in Mandalorian. I was curious on where he got his outfit, and I love that they explained where that outfit came from and why he's using black with his armor. He's still trying to keep that Tuscan tie of what he's learned on top of being
And that was good.
in his armor.
That was something good. And then they ruined the whole fucking episode. They ruined every fucking thing.
Did anybody else get real kind of big, like Egyptian sort of pharaoh dressing vibes when they were putting him in those robes?
yeah.
There was something
Yeah.
so like the point I wanted to make earlier, Tuscan culture is not a reflection of specifically Native American traditions or specifically ancient Japanese traditions or specifically Maori traditions. It's a huge combination of multiple different aspects that many of us recognize. Like for some people, the whole kind of being in the desert, the tree metaphor, for some people could interpret that as really, really biblical. 40 days and 40 nights, burning bush. For me, it was very kind of Norse pagan, Yggdrasil, Odin, sort of themes of kind of rebirth and regrowth and understanding and learning.
We could even go back to Christianity and the forbidden fruit.
Also,
So, I
the
mean-
12 tribes of Israel and Moses leading them through the Red Sea.
Can I also state that during that whole trip,
I do remember
we
the
saw
point.
a scene that we've never seen before. Bobo looking at Slave One taking off.
Yeah,
in
his
a dark
father
room.
going. His father going away.
Yeah,
We've
with
never
business.
seen that. The fact that they came in, they kind of they CGI'd that.
No,
and
they
gave
didn't.
us that scene.
It's an actor who is the spitting image of young Boba.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Huh.
another child actress who looks absolutely identical. He also plays the small Tuscan Raider child who loves Boba Fett so much.
Oh,
And then to finish it off, they ruined the entire show with having Boba Fett dance at the end of it.
It's not a
You
dance,
got
it's a
Boba Fett
hacker.
freaking
It's not a
dancing
dance, it's a
like a
hacker.
bitch. Like he's
not a
like
dance.
dancing, fucking around. And I know what y'all are gonna say. This goes back to African tribes, American Indians.
It's a
stuff
Haka.
like that. It
All
just
right.
looked like he was fucking dancing like a fucking dumbass. Like, you're Boba Fett. Why the fuck are you dancing?
It's the New Zealand Polynesian Haka, and you better stop. Damn
It
it!
just ruined the entire show. Boba Fett should not be dancing.
So my problem with it, like, I'm fine with the Haka. I actually love the Haka. I mean, growing up, I was on a football team where all my teammates were, well, not all of them, but majority of my teammates were Maori. So we did the Haka before every game, and it's sick. The Haka
fun
can
to
totally
do.
pump you up and stuff.
And it
I would have,
intimidates.
yeah. I probably would have gone with a different Haka just because that one did seem a little bit more dancey and not as much of a warrior Haka as at least what I'm familiar with. But it's a Haka's a Haka, or I guess that's not true, but that Haka is the one they went with, and I don't know too much about that Haka compared to the other ones. So
It just looked like they were dancing.
it
You
did
know what I'm
look
saying?
like
It looked more like a
Yeah.
rain dance than it did,
yeah.
something else. And I've seen a rain dancing personally. My grandmother was born on the Indian reservation, so I do know. I have been around that part of my culture a lot, and I've seen them Indians do weird stuff, and it's like, all right, I don't understand. This is kind of weird. But that just looked like dancing. It didn't look like he was doing anything. It didn't look like a battle, some type of pre-battle thing or a post-battle thing. It just looked like they were dancing. And that's what ruined it. It's like, dude, okay, y'all could have made this way better. I do agree with you on that, Garrison. They could have made that way better. But overall, I thought the show was decent. And if I was going to rate it, I'd give it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I think my issue with the kind of like the Tuscan Raider kind of cultural thing, for me, it just because you want this to seem like an achievement that had a big impact on Boba Fett and will impact him for the rest of the show, right? Because he continues to wear those robes and stuff. My only problem with it was, well, one of my problems with it was the fact that because this is such a big impact on him and because this is supposed to be kind of an important part, we only saw in one episode, so it felt really rushed and really just kind of like, I don't know what's going on. What the heck? If they would have stretched it out in a couple episodes where we kind of got to know the culture a little bit more and got to kind of experience it from his perspective and kind of see what was going on and why it had an impact on him, I think it would be a lot easier for more fans to kind of like, oh, now I see why it's a big part. But because it was all kind of pushed into one episode and kind of rushed through and not really explained a whole lot, it just felt kind of like a little forced. And so it made it more confusing and more just weird and kind of pointless. So I just wish they would have spent a little bit more time on it to kind of like show why this is so important and why it had an impact on him.
I think they'll be returning. I think this kind of back to dream state. The being in the back to tank is like a obviously it's what's being used to kind of direct these portions of the storytelling, and I think it's really essential at the moment that we get this kind of almost info dump of information about his about his backstory, so we can understand where he is mentally at the moment in the present. It helps. All of this backstory has a purpose to help unravel why he's behaving this way and why we're not seeing the Boba Fett we're expecting to see, because he's had a humongous drug trip in the middle of the desert and he's had a huge life revelation about himself.
Well, I think
But
a lot
I
of
do
it
agree
has...
with you that it did possibly feel a little rushed and compressed, but I'm so hungry for it that I don't care what speed it's fed to me.
But this is the thing. And I think this is one of the things that bothers me so much. I want Star Wars, but I want good Star Wars. I don't want just rush through quick, fast, let's hurry up and get as much content in front of people as possible Star Wars. I'd rather wait 20 years for something that's good than I would get something the next day that just sucks. And that's how I kind of feel. It's like it's like they're rushing to get us more content instead of sitting back and trying to make a great story. And the biggest thing is, if the story's no good, then the rush content isn't worth the paper that it was written on. And that's how it's starting to feel to me. Is like, okay, you guys are just willing to put out any content just because Disney says, get this stuff out there. We need to get more stuff in front of the fans. We're going to lose somebody. We're going to lose fans. We need to make as much money as possible, instead of somebody that like George is like, I don't care about how much money we make. I care about making a great story. And that's what's happening. And it's sad. It saddens me as a fan, as somebody that's been a fan for years, that they would do that. It's like, come on, give us good content. Because what pisses me off is because it seems like they do that. They're doing that with Star Wars, but they're not doing that with Marvel. You know, Marvel, they're taking their time. The stories are great. Everything is coming out good. And it's like, dude, why are you? It's almost like they're purposely trying to destroy Star Wars. I'm starting to get that type of vibe, which just breaks my heart.
Marvel MCU hasn't necessarily had the kind of hiccups that the Star Wars universe has had, particularly under Disney, and I think they are attempting to recuperate their losses to a degree. But also, I think this episode is another really fantastic example of trust the process. This is all obviously so deeply interconnected. It's, I think, like the kind of like Loki and Hawkeye as well, it's a series that's going to be designed to watch all in one go once the episodes have been individually released, and it will all tie together as a complete narrative, not just a singular kind of episodic.
Well, that's all these
adventure.
are, soap operas. You know, all these are, you know, 8. They're mini series. Every season is just basically like a movie that they cut up into a sequence. But what happens is when you start cutting up stuff, well, we got to take this out because we got to get it with under this time, and we have to have this time period, and we have to do this, and they start cutting parts out. That's what leaves the holes. That's what leaves you like, wait a minute, this didn't make sense. Well, you know, why would they do that? Or taking the time out to make the proper camera angles. All you had to do is put that camera down a little bit, and that ranker door is huge now. All you got to do is set it down lower, and then that ranker door looks huge. It's giant. But the way that they filmed it, the dude standing next to it, it looks like it's like 8 feet tall, and the dude's like 6 foot tall. So it's very bad, and that's bad for John and Dave or whoever is directing. They're making mistakes, and it's because, and don't get me wrong, I'm never going to put them down, but I think they're being rushed. I think they were being rushed through this, and I mean, that part could be, it might not just be, it might not be, you know what I'm saying, so much Disney. It could be COVID. There's so many different scenarios what it could be. But I'm starting to just feel like you guys are missing out on the simple things. The simple things is what draws a crowd in, what makes you say, look at that, I remember that door from, I mean, they could have just snatched off, you know, some of the stuff from the original, from Return of the Jedi and used that scene. You know what I'm saying? They could have just put that in the background because they showed the big door. But this little bitty door, it's like, dude, what ranker's coming out of there? And this dude's always, he's acting really good about being scared. But it's like, dude, I'm not going to be scared. Something come out of that door, I'll probably whoop his ass. It won't be the same size as me. You know, it's just the little things like that. And like jumping the scene. When they jump from one thing to the next thing and they're not cutting in the right places, it leaves you just feeling like it gives you a sense of confusion. It's like if somebody is talking to you and they say, you know what I'm saying? Oh, okay, so we were walking down the street and then the car. Okay, wait a minute. You were walking down the street and then a car. Where did the car come from? You're just stuck there. You don't know what's going on, and that's kind of how the cut scenes and the cutting was happening in this episode. They just cut, and then you're like on this next part, like, okay, what just happened? Okay, what's going on now? It just left you feeling confused, and you know, it like Garrison said, you just feel rushed into the next moment, but you didn't explain the last moment. So now I don't understand what's going on in this moment. And that's kind of how they did it. And it's sad.
I agree with Dylan's point again. I do, if anything, if my only criticism would be that I feel that if they'd have released episodes 1 and 2 together at the same time for people to watch as a singular block, I think it would have read and been taken in much better by more of the majority, maybe.
So Rob says, what does he say right here? He says, thank it. Oops.
Sorry.
Basically, he's saying that they tried to squeeze 10 or 12 episodes into 7. Basically, what happened is they filmed everything in a certain amount of time. When they're writing this out, they're writing a movie, and then they're cutting the movie up into multiple episodes. So you figure when an average movie that might have 300 hours of video time, and then they cut it up into 2 hours. And what they're doing now is they're basically taping that same amount of time and they're cutting up into more like, 4 hours. So this is kind of like the director's cut. The director's cut is usually around in between 4 and 5 hours. The problem is that any good editor, any good director, anybody that's reviewing this stuff is going to be able to catch these things. And they're letting things slide. Now, I don't know if it's intentional, or I don't know if it's, because they're on a time crunch because of Disney, or because they had to shoot and get everything done so quickly because of COVID. But these things are supposed to be caught. These are the things that when you go to the movies and you watch the movie, you don't feel these senses. Well, you do sometimes. Some movies are just poorly edited. And that's basically the feeling that these are giving you. Not to saying that they're bad, it just causes that. It causes the reason that Garrison felt the way that Garrison felt about it is because of these things that are happening. And it draws your attention away from the things that you're supposed to be paying attention to. Like if you're supposed to be paying attention to the cup, if you're supposed to be paying attention to this cup, and somebody just takes the cup out of the scene and puts this phone in there, now you done took your attention away from that cup, but then they put the cup back in. So now it's like, okay, wait a minute. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't make sense. And then they don't ever put the phone back, so now you don't know what's going on with the phone, which leaves you confused. And that's kind of what how they've been cutting these first 2 episodes, which leaves you in a sense of, okay, what's going on? Like why? Like I'm confused. I don't get what's going on. I don't get what point it is. And that's exactly where we got left at, kind of.
As I am desperate to pull the conversation back to a more positive tone, can we at least all agree that at least the comedy writing in this episode was... I really did have some good laughs. I thought there was some really, really fun moments. But you can tell that Mary Morrison is having the absolute time of his life playing Boba Fett. He is loving like every second.
I want to bring up the fact of how good Ming and Morrison are doing together.
Yeah,
they fit together well as their roles. They have great chemistry in their acting. It's almost like they're not even acting. It's like they're just sitting there. This is just how they would be normally when they're around each other, and that's something that needs to be pointed out. They have a very good chemistry, and the overall scene sets, the backgrounds, the music, all that shit was phenomenal. It was very, very good. The sunset when the sun is coming down over the sand dunes. I mean, that shit was beautiful. There were some beautiful, beautiful shots. Even with the tree in the background, with the rain coming and the lightning flashing behind the tree, it was beautifully shot. That was phenomenal. Even though I know it's all CGI and it's not even CGI. It's giant wall of TV panels is created one scene. It looked really, really good.
All the rooms are the same size. Don't remind me. CJ, what were you going to say?
I just love with their how fluent they are with each other during that scene when they dropped that guy in the pit. Like there wasn't like a slight cutoff to her doing that. It was just him talking ever so briefly, and then she just said screw it, and he already knew she was going to do it, so he just went go ahead. Like it was, and there was no words. It was just go ahead, pretty much, and just how fluent they are with each other on screen. And you could probably if we get it behind the scenes like we did with the Mandalorian and everything. The stuff.
That was a very good part, Rob. It was. I like that. He just jumped out. He was like, "Oh,
yeah, no, he booked it."
It reminded me of like the behavior of the droids in the prequels. That kind of jittery, kind of abstract, out the box behavior. Like he fully just whoop. Yeet, gone. So ridiculous.
The biggest thing with that, like I said, with them being so fluent with each other, is that it's going to improve the show more. And it's going to be more gut-wrenching if Fennec finally gives up and says, Boba, I've had enough of your crap. You're not doing what you need to do. And it's gonna pull some strings if it happens. And I mean, I don't want it to happen, but I hope it does at the same time, because that's the thing about Star Wars. It does like to hit emotions. Star Wars is a very emotional thing. It's connections, friendships, losing a friend, gaining a friend, losing your love, gaining another love, all that stuff coming together.
That was one of the questions I asked Ming was, because of their little confrontation that they had in the first episode, is it going to cause some friction down the road? And of course, I couldn't get no answer, but it was fun to ask. So we don't know what's going to happen.
But
Yeah, just in case
Oh, sorry,
I'm
Charlie.
so
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Just in case our listeners aren't aware, Kyle did an interview with the one, the only Ming Na Wen.
Fennec Shand was on.
Sway.
Oh gosh!
Yes, it was fun, but of course we didn't get no. She didn't give us any answers that would help us in figuring out anything.
Sealed tight lips.
But I think the other thing is like, I like the connection he's got with the Tuscan Raiders.
Is there a way we can? Like, I wish there was a way, because we're getting like stuff in like other languages that I don't understand, and I'm like, is there like a?
It's bots.
Is it?
It's porn bots.
They're porn bots, really? If we click on them, can we see some porn?
There. How you doing? But no,
Which is crazy because it's pulling up on the thing, but if you look at everybody that's in the thing and at the total people watching, they're not even there. So it's like, how are they putting up stuff? We got Rob, Dylan, Sydney, and Nick is in the chat, and we have 4 people watching right now. So, like, how are these people even in here? I don't get it. Yeah. Oh well. I just keep looking over like, what the hell is VORRED? War Red? What is that?
Just to flex my film knowledge a little bit, I wanted to pull up some more of the film inspirations that were brought up in this episode. Obviously, like Hidden Fortress, which is a really nice nod to kind of Star Wars roots. Dances with Wolves, Terminator 2, that bar fight. Dune, spice. They finally done what Dune couldn't do, explain the spice. Good, the bad, and the ugly, and also Man with No Name. Boba coming out of that tent in those robes with the bullet, and like Clint Eastwood with the poncho, and
I'm sorry. At first, so my girlfriend and I were watching it, and she like glanced at the TV real fast because she was like, her phone rang, and then she like looked up. She's like, "Oh, I thought that was The Rock." I started laughing. I'm like,
CJ,
really?
CJ, it's about drive. It's about power, CJ.
We say hungry.
We devour.
Devour?
We put in the work,
She
we
literally-
put in the hours, and we take what's ours.
No, but she literally looked up and said that. I was like, I could kind of see that when you like whip your head back real fast. But
Yeah.
no, I love that. At first I kind of had that Luke moment. You know, we saw Luke in Mandalorian with the hood on, and just that Jedi, or in Jabba's palace when he walks into Jabba's palace. And that's how Boba came out of that little tent. It just gave me that Luke vibe of like, there's a new person in this robe that nobody's going to be prepared for.
Yeah.
And you better watch the hell out, because I'm going to take a lot of crap for this. But it's going to be me.
Rebirthed, like literally, metaphorically, spiritually, physically, mentally. Like he's entered a new phase, guys. He's blooming.
Nick.
Hey, Dylan, I just want to ask you, what does that mean?
That is
Because I know you
I
went
do
out of
believe.
your way to type that. Dylan, we talk. That is not how you text me back.
Oh, we also got like more figuring Dan. We got more Jizz music, Jizz revival.
I love how
I'm still
they
trying to
went
figure out
all
how they
crap and,
survived.
like, stopped playing. I love
Yeah, they
that
did.
they
We
knew
got
what
we
that
got a
was.
figuring Dan like reaction shot. He went.
And that for another good thing about this episode, I guess, was the fact that Boba Fett actually stood up for himself against them and didn't
Yeah.
back down. It kind of brought me back. All right, he's not such a wussy like the first episode kind of portrayed him as. Where
No.
he
Thank
might
you,
have
Sydney.
changed, but he's still not a walkover, I guess, or a pushover.
Yeah, I didn't get, there was a lot more of that, him being strong, him being Boba Fett type vibes
Right.
that I got out of this one than I did, except for the end when he
Yeah.
was dancing. I was like, what the hell? You just ruined it all. But,
yeah.
the
With
other
that
part, like,
Yeah, with that said, though, it was just like from the first episode, what changed? It's like a light switch went off. Why in the first episode is he just getting his butt whooped, and the second one he's back to being full blown like ass kicking?
because he got his ass whooped
So-
in the first
Yeah,
one.
because he realized the way he wanted to go was not the right way to go, I
So,
guess.
yeah, I'm just confused. Like, where's the
Also,
consistency?
this is a back to dream he's having, so it's something he would recollect when he wakes up, being reminded of the memory and the trip that he had with the tree. There was a scene where he's holding the helmet, and instead of seeing his father's face, he sees his own face, but his own face is his father's face. And it's very, very similar to the scene with Luke when he has the vision on Dagobah with Darth Vader's helmet smashed and it's Luke's face. It's this idea that he understands now that following his father's footsteps, becoming a bounty hunter, will kill him. It will end his life. This is an alternative route for him. It's an alternative route for him to take where he can still maintain power and respect, but it's not about vengeance. It's not about avenging his father anymore. It's about honoring his father.
Well, you
At
gotta
least that's
understand
how
that
I interpreted it.
after he died, or after his father dies, if you go through the Clone Wars, Boba had it pretty rough. He didn't have no easy life. So I can see why he was such a force to be reckoned with. And then, being around the Tuscans and having more of that family environment and kind of gaining, a different aspect on life, I can see where the changes would be. But it's like, you can't come in. It's like, if you wanted to be, this family guy that, wants to, act like you're with the family of Tuscans and all that stuff, you don't go take over a crime syndicate. That you just don't do that. You just stay where you're at. Be happy where you're at. Don't go take over a crime syndicate and then try to be the boss man, and you don't have that boss man mentality. And even the mayor points it out when he was like, being the boss is a little bit different than being a bounty hunter. So it's a little bit different. So you might want to think things through a little bit better than you are right now, because the way you're trying to run things now is not going to work.
Can we also point out the fact that we got a lot of live action aliens throughout this whole episode? The mayor, never seen it in live action, only seen it in cartoons.
Also,
No, it's in,
he was...
it's well, not live action, but there was one in
Yeah, there is one in live action. A New Hope. He's in the cantina. There's theories that it's the same one.
And then he's also in Jabba's palace in
Yes.
I'm
Return
talking
of the
about
Jedi.
I'm talking about like a direct close up and a conversation with.
It was a pretty good close up of him in
The one in A New Hope.
New
You
Hope
see him
was.
for a
They
decent.
pan right up to him, probably a good maybe 6 feet away from him.
But this is the first time we've heard both their native language and Basic together. Because I do believe in the Clone Wars, I don't think we ever heard them speak Basic. It was just because they've got like 4 sets of gills and 2 throats, so it's like a whole deal.
But
I know that they're kind of well, didn't I think that in the Clone Wars they did talk, because he's a bartender. There's one that's a bartender at one point.
yes,
Can we also point out that if they are the Pike Syndicate, they're pikes because they're fish. And there's also Admiral Akbar, the whole Mon Calamari. Why are we so on the nose with the fish puns? Why are we so... George, explain.
Maybe George just liked
Why?
fishing, and he just started creating by the fish.
yeah. He just started every time he caught a new fish, he was like, "Cool, that's a pike, that's a calamari."
Yeah.
He just started going at it.
Inspiration strikes, I guess.
I don't know.
It just
I
kind of
think-
wherever things fit in that's where you utilize them, and that was one of the great things George did when he was creating Star Wars, is he took inspiration from everything in everyday life.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think that one of the directions that is being missed here in Star Wars now is it's just they're just going off of what he already created. They're not creating so much of a new sense. They're just kind of like riding on his coattails, and they're not showing, they're not giving us as much new as in inspiration.
I wouldn't say that. I think they are making new stuff. It's just a different quality. Unfortunately, a lot of people won't like this, but I feel like a lot of things that Disney's doing recently, especially with the recent Star Wars things, it's it feels a lot more like cheap entertainment compared to what Star Wars used to be. It's a little bit like
Even though they're
it's
spending
I
billions
good.
of dollars
I
off
can't
of it.
argue with you. I can't.
Yeah, it's good. It's entertaining. People like it, but when you put it under a microscope and analyze it a little bit harder, it doesn't hold up like movies
Like a
used to.
potato. Like a potato
Yeah, not even
floating.
Star Wars, but just movies in
Like
general.
the spray painted potato.
That was a nice
But just-
callback.
Just movies in general, just seem to be a lot more about cheap entertainment and big wowing audiences, and don't hold up under a microscope
At
when
the
people actually
moment,
sit to think about it.
To rebut that point, at the moment, specifically, I would argue that's partly due to the pandemic.
I think a lot of it has to do with the pandemic. I think a lot of the
Especially,
rushness.
it has compressed.
I think it
and
was
kind of
before the
crippled.
pandemic.
Well, you got to
True,
understand
but
that they.
a lot of this was like, so sorry, Kyle. A lot of this was like pre-ready to go. A lot of this was planned and set out and ready to go, and all sort of probably as meticulously planned as Marvel Cinematic Universes. And the pandemic screwed it, and Marvel just happened to be in, like, just to use them for comparison, in a slightly better position. And Star Wars was kind of left stranded with one set, 5 actors.
Well, Marvel also had a platform since Iron Man, since the first Iron Man. They've had years to perfect this.
Yeah, it's
We're
been
also
kind of a
coming
yearly
off of-
product. This is
We're coming off of what George did and trying to mimic it, but not make it look like George did it. We're trying to individualize each little thing, and that's why I think they brought in John and Dave to do more of it, because everybody knows John and Dave's product. We know Dave's product from Clone Wars. We know John's product because he did Iron Man, he did Elf, and he came in. He was on Clone Wars. He was pre-Vizsla on Clone Wars. He was part of Season 7's Clone Wars.
He was
in the
pre-Vizsla?
Yes, he was pre-Vizsla, the voice of pre-Vizsla. Fun fact.
ah.
But they have a product, and I think that's why Disney is giving them more projects for them. Because originally, if you would have gave John and Dave the last 3 Star Wars movies that we had, they would have been different. They would have been more. I mean, we wouldn't have had Rey, so
No, that's fair. I agree.
Well, I
wouldn't
wouldn't
have been
agree
what
with
we
that
thought.
because Dave and John are very promoting of they really go to the next level of promoting female actresses. They really push hard for that. They have made, Bo-Katan, Ahsoka Tano.
Yep.
There's so many different characters that they have created that have just stole the thing. So I don't think that if Rey, I think Rey still would have been there. I just don't think it would have been. I think the story might have been a little bit different.
I don't think it would have been Rey. I think it would have been a leading female character, but I don't think the name would have been Rey. I think it might have been a Skywalker. It might have been a Mara Jade, not like a Mara Jade, but like a Mara, like a child of Luke or a child of Han Solo that was a more driving character, not a abandoned child on a planet
Palpatine's
finding her
grandkid.
family. Yes. I think it would have been more focused on Luke and more focused on Han and their kids, and it would have been that kind of structure more than that. But we got to get back to Boba Fett. We're really getting. This is like a Saturday topic.
Can I tell you guys my my fun fact about this week's episode of Book of Boba Fett? The font used for the Huttese to basic subtitles is the same font that's used in all of the original trilogy films.
Oh,
Which I thought was a really nice little callback.
nice.
They've paid attention to a lot of the small details in this episode. There are so many sort of subtle Easter eggs and little bits sort of woven in and threaded in, and I think that's a really, really nice touch.
But I think that's something that they're paying too much attention to, that little bitty stuff, and they're not paying attention to some of the bigger stuff that they need to be paying attention to. I think they're
I
trying
can
to
see
give
that
us all these little
perspective.
bitty things, and they're like the door. It's like, come on, man, you can make sure that you use Huttese subtitling,
Yeah.
to make it to match the very first thing, but you can't fix the door. It's a giant door.
Yes, this is the thing. The first door that they go into is gigantic.
And
Apply
then-
the same logic.
Yeah, it's just it seems that I don't know. It's just like it just seems like they're missing something, and it's just causing indifference. It's like, okay, you made sure that we know that Boss is going to show up. Everybody from this episode should know that Boss is going to show up. There's too many Trandoshans there.
Yeah.
But then you don't fix something as small as, the door or something like that. It's like, okay, you're pointing me in a direction, but then you're taking me out of that direction by messing up on these other little things that just need more attention to.
So the Trandoshan thing, why didn't that Wookiee lose his freaking mind when he kept seeing like when they were walking through and saw the Trandoshans?
Because he's being paid an inordinately large amount of money to do as he's told.
Come on now. They had a long-lasting
I know they have a long-lasting rivalry and beef with each other, but trust me,
want to also know
the amount those twins are paying him.
I'm a pessimist and I like to nitpick, but I wouldn't even nitpick that.
I'm nitpicking that due to the fact that even in the books, Chewie would go out. He had a job, and Chewie would go out of his way.
This Wookiee.
Trandoshan or old fighting pal and enemy of current employers, Boba Fett.
Yeah. This Wookiee didn't even look like a regular Wookiee. This Wookiee looked like he'd been kidnapped when he was a kid, raised as a bounty hunter badass.
Feral.
Like he was just
Can I just? I'm gonna nitpick something off
Black
of that
Croissant
Wookiee.
fears no lizard man.
I'm gonna nitpick something. His eyes were a little different to me. It was like when we got
different color than we were expecting from Wookiees.
I actually thought he was
cool.
He
looked dope.
Cool as shit.
I lost my mind.
I want to see him in
jumping on my couch. I lost my freaking mind when I saw him. It's
Keep
just when
him
I
away
saw
from
his
the
shape
furries,
of his eyes were a little bit different than what
I love the way that they pan the camera to him when he walks up.
Oh yeah.
Just the way they caught him, it was like, holy crap, is that who I think it is?
Yeah.
But you also got to realize that this is he was raised once he left Kashyyyk, he fought in Wookiee fighting pits for money. Then he fought in, all kind of different stuff. And then before he ever became a bounty hunter, he actually knocks Chewbacca out with a pair of brass knuckles when they're fighting. So, I mean,
are we talking
this dude
Wookiee
is
MMA?
Once again,
basically, this dude he's no joke. He is one of the most feared Wookiees in the galaxy.
Yep.
And at one point here, he has teamed up with Boba Fett in some of the comics and plus a couple of the books he's been in.
Yeah.
This is a character that I think that should have been brought in, and he is probably one of the most scariest people in Star Wars. So for him to come in to the show, that's going to show us a direction that at some point in time, him and Boba's going to fight.
So
there's no point in showing that.
And joining Boba? And that's why Boss comes into play?
It's possible.
This is the thing. Boba acknowledges that he knows who the Wookiee is because he calls him Gladiator, and that was one of his nicknames back in the fighting pit days. Mm-hmm. So he acknowledges in that single
if you go by off
sentence
the comics and stuff, they team up at one or two times.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So do we see that happening, and that's why Bosk comes into play? Because think about it. That would be a good motivation for Bosk. The Trandoshans don't like Wookiees. The Hutts are paying him to kill Boba Fett, and he gets to kill a Wookiee on top of it. That's kind of a win-win in Bosk's face.
But would Bosk want to go up against Boba Fett knowing what Boba Fett can do?
That's the thing. A lot of bounty hunters take money not caring about the situation and are willing to die for it. That's what it says in the Bounty Hunters Guild. Some bounty hunters coming in, like the book, they said some bounty hunters come in and all they care about is the money and they don't care about the danger. Boba Fett's notes at the bottom of that page said, no bounty is worth dying for. Plain and simple. It's already in the beginning of the book, but Boba Fett restates it after that sentence in the book. So maybe Boss gets a little bit of a big head and tries to test it out.
I had two more little points. Did anybody catch the male Hutt twin dabbing his sweat with a mouse?
Yes, and then the mouse bit his hand.
Yeah, the mouse went. And also, the train heist was taken from Lawrence of Arabia, which I thought was really cool. I haven't seen that film in a long time, and it was really, really cool to see that iconic when he brings all of the tribes together and they raid the desert train.
I mean, there's a lot of movies that they could be based on
Oh, yeah.
on a train heist, just
I mean,
by
there's a
every
lot of movies
western.
with
man.
train
I mean like a shot for shot, setup for setup, like color palette for color palette.
I don't know. It kind of reminded me more of a like from them jumping from the speeders onto the other speeder. It's the cowboys jumping from horse to horse.
Yeah,
You know,
it was.
I kind of got
again,
some
Can we
two
just
mules from
point out
Sister
the fact
Sear or
that
something like
Tuscan
that.
Raider landed on the speeder and then threw himself off? Thinking
Yeah,
that was
like
the
I
plan.
didn't get that. No, I didn't get that at
Like,
all.
I
Like why,
figured, like-
dude? You landed on it. Why did you jump back off? Like,
Okay.
he
Like, I
thought he
saw
was
that
a-
and I'm like,
it
does he
gave me
think that's
professional
part of the
wrestling
plan?
vibes.
like he was trying to figure out a way to just mash himself or something.
Maybe it was
like,
learning how to like fall safely, because that's the thing.
No, I feel like he thought that was a part of the plan and that's why he hucked himself off the
Oh
side.
yeah, maybe.
He's like, I can't understand what this guy wants. I think he wants me to land and then jump off again. So,
Yeah, I guess because their communication isn't quite.
no, it's not there. It's really
that's why
But
when
I
I
do-
name, go ahead.
I do really appreciate that Boba took the time to learn quite a large portion of sort of like Tuscan Raider language.
Yeah,
Because
and the sign language.
Mando only knows a small amount.
I like the fact of that he was doing the sign language and everything and it was like
Yeah.
I knew what he was saying by the sign language. Like, man, that kind of makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
that was kind of cool. I like that.
Can
they
we
did
also, I gotta ask this, do we see him getting revenge on those damn Jawas for taking his armor?
that.
No,
Probably not.
I think he's made his peace. I think it was.
I think Mando did enough damage, but I want to see a little bit more.
Small detail regarding the Jawas: when he's having the vision and you see the trees, the fruit on the tree is the eyes of the Jawas, because they stole his reputation, they stole his home, his family, his strength, his however you want to put it, however you want to interpret it. But yeah,
I was wondering. I thought they were bat eyes or something.
I did
like
too.
they
That's
were
what I
about
was
to
thinking.
get 'em.
Now
Like
I'm
somebody
gonna
about
watch
to get
that
'em.
with a different perspective. That's good.
Okay, so what do you guys rate it? This episode.
I'd give
I
it
already
like a
gave
good
my
sort of
rating.
8.5. Yeah,
I'm
no, genuinely, I cried. I had
Wow.
goosebumps. Like,
I give it about a 7.
Wow.
I think a 6.5, 7 is my fair push. I wanted to see a little bit more. I wanted to at least see the Wookiee get in Boba's face. Like I wanted like some tussle.
you want
a
that
little
in your
bit-
face? No, no, no.
I wanted
run.
I wanted
Run.
Boba to look up at that Wookiee and be like, "You're gonna fucking get it." Like,
Reminder that Tamara Morrison is 5'7", ladies and gentlemen, for your enjoyment.
And
I am
in-
taller than Boba Fett. I'm
And in
taller.
Wikipedia, Boba Fett is 5'9". So is Jango
Oh.
Fett.
Well, I have kids taller than him, so
But I would
Short
love to see that scene where that Wookiee is like in his face. Like I would have, that whole stare down moment would have been a good little moment. And then the Hutts called back the Wookiee, like not yet. He'll get it. Like that would have been kind of a good little thing instead of just like him growling at him from like 10 feet away.
9. Dylan, I think you're just giving a little bit too much. A 9. 10 is
Well,
perfect.
Yeah, Dylan.
10 is Mandalorian. I'm sorry. That's where I'm basing this.
Nah, even Mandalorian isn't 10, bro.
Yeah, I don't think even.
Well, I'm
Mandalorian
talking
is
about
10.
if you're gonna put it in that spectrum, Mandalorian is the 10.
The
where you
only
can
thing
hit
that I would say in all of Star Wars is a 10 out of 10 would be in The Mandalorian when Luke Skywalker walks in. That was the only 10 out of 10 moment I have gotten out of anything that's ever happened in Star
Right.
Wars.
There's
That
no
moment-
such thing as perfect.
Yeah, that's perfect. Like there's
And that's
nothing.
the hill that Garrison will die on.
That's a hell of a
Oh,
hill
I'll
to
die
die
on
on. I'm gonna say it again.
There's no such thing as perfect. Yeah, I'll die on that hill every day.
And a man that tries to find perfection is lost.
Yep.
You're gonna die very unhappy.
Okay, so where are you at, Garrison? Where did you rate it at?
Okay, what did I rate the last one? Do you remember?
Don't go
3.
off the last one.
I've rated the
I think it was
last
like
one a
3.
3. Yeah, we both rated the
Yeah.
last one a 3.
I'd rate this one like a 5.
Hey, can we just say though there was
It's
improvement?
going up, guys. Yeah, there was improvement.
It wasn't
I
I
expected
great.
there to, and I even
But
actually
it-
went into this episode with no expectations whatsoever. Like this is gonna be garbage, just like the first one.
Yeah.
And I was kind of
Same.
impressed that it was a little bit better. I was like, all right, okay, we're headed in that direction. Like,
But it was a hard 5, like
mhm.
cemented firmly in 5.
Yeah.
It was extremely okay.
Extremely okay. You're beasts, the pair of you. Absolutely
Hey.
horrible.
Everybody this weekend, make sure that you tune in because we're gonna have the fellas from 1313
Yes.
podcast on with us on
Yes.
Saturday. So we're gonna have a
I'm
lot of fun talking,
so
recapping all this
excited.
stuff and talking with those guys about everything that's happening with the with Boba Fett and Star Wars in general. I need to shave, man. My face is itching.
I am guessing then that we have chewed through and chewed about this episode enough.
No, wait a minute. I got one more thing. This episode sucked. No, I joke. I'm just playing.
Bye. Bye, everyone. End the live stream now. Done. It was not mid, Sydney. It was in no way, shape, or form mid.
I can't wait to see what's going to happen on the next one, though. I will
Incredibly
say,
mediocre.
I will say this, that because of the build up from this episode, I am excited to see the next episode. I really am. I wasn't too excited to see this episode. I was like, what the hell? But
That's all I can ask for at this point. All I can ask for.
I am excited to see the next episode. Now I want to see what happens. I want to see what Black Croissant, or however you say his name.
Yeah, Black
Croissant.
I want to see what happens between him and Boba. I want to see what happens between Boba and the twins. I can kind of care less about what happens with the Tuscan Raiders at this point. Okay,
I think they're done with the Tuscan Raiders.
I hope so,
because
because
that was
that's-
kind of an ending to it.
You know, I think that they'll bring him up just a little bit more because when he leaves, when he tells him that he has to leave because he has to go do whatever, go take over Jabba's empire. But I think that I think I could live without that. I would much rather them use the flashbacks to get a little bit more about who Boba Fett is from his past. And I know that they keep putting little references in, things that happened to him when he was younger. I kind of hope they go into more of the Clone Wars type area. So I can't wait to see what happens next. I'm kind of excited now.
I am too.
I'm glad. On that happy, lovely, wonderful note, I'm guessing it is time to say goodbye. If you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You absolutely must. You can catch us live every Wednesday and every Saturday. This Saturday. Again, subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell to join our live shows. All of that good stuff. Have fun, be safe, be kind, and may the Force be with you always.
Oh, I got to hit the button.